chosen one. Listen closely. This moment isn't random. You didn't stop here by chance. Heaven has paused the noise of the world just to reach you. Because your name has been released in the spirit realm, something big is happening. And whether you can see it or not, you can feel it. The stirring in your chest, the shift in your atmosphere, that holy unease that makes no sense in the natural. That's not anxiety. That's activation. That's heaven saying, wake up. This is your hour. No, you have never been like the rest. You've always been different. And the very thing that made you feel isolated is the same thing that proves you were chosen. Not everyone carries what you carry. Not everyone feels what you feel. But you, yes. You were born with something that darkness has feared since the day you were born. You didn't ask for this weight. You didn't choose the warfare. But heaven chose you for this exact hour because what's coming requires someone who has already been through the fire and survived it. You've spent seasons feeling overlooked. You've been silenced when you had something to say. You've been pushed to the back when you were built for the front. But all of that was training. It wasn't punishment, it was positioning. You weren't being delayed. You were being developed. What's been stirring in you? That restlessness, that hunger for something more, that deep groaning in your spirit. It's not just personal, it's prophetic. You are feeling the pull of purpose because your time is approaching. The doors are unlocking. The scroll is being opened. And God is looking for those who are ready, not those who are perfect. You are not hearing this by accident. This is your divine summons. The Spirit of God is calling forth the remnant, those who have been hidden, refined, broken, healed, and forged into unshakable warriors. And you are one of them. That's why the enemy has fought you so hard. That's why your childhood was so chaotic. That's why people tried to bury your voice. Because you were dangerous from the beginning. But here's the truth, they don't know. You cannot bury what heaven has crowned. You've been through storms that should have crushed you. Pain that should have shut you down. Nights where you almost gave up. But somehow, you're still standing. And not just standing, you're standing with a word in your belly and fire in your eyes. You are still here because the assignment on your life has not expired. God is about to do something that shakes regions, but He will not do it through celebrities. He will do it through the set apart, through the consecrated, through the ones who were refined in private so they could carry glory in public. You are one of them. You are the vessel, the trumpet, the sword. This is your call to rise. The strength you need is already within you. The clarity you seek is already hovering. And the timing, it's now. Heaven has aligned this moment to collide with your obedience. It is proclaimed in the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 32. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploit. You were never called to a passive faith. You were marked for impact, for disruption, for holy conquest. What's coming will not be small, and you will not enter it weak. God is raising you with fresh strength to do what hasn't been done, to build what hasn't been built, and to break what hasn't been broken. The moment is now. You can feel it, your spirit knows. The alarm is sounding in the heavens and echoing in your bones. If you walk away from this unchanged, you risk missing the very thing you were born for. But if you say yes, if you respond with boldness, everything begins to shift. Comment 888 below as a prophetic act. That number represents divine new beginnings, spiritual alignment. and supernatural release. When you type it, you are not just engaging, you're prophesying over yourself. You're marking this moment. You're declaring, "This is my hour." And if you haven't already, subscribe now. Like this video. Share it with someone who's been sensing the same thing. This space is more than content. It's confirmation. It's fire. It's where the chosen ones gather to be ignited. Because something big is unfolding and your name is on it. Heaven didn't choose you by mistake. You were born for this. Rise up, warrior. The world is about to hear you roar. You were never meant to blend in. From the very beginning, heaven wove something rare into your soul, something uncontainable, something that set you apart before you even took your first breath. The world has tried to mold you into its image. People have tried to fit you into boxes, too small for the fire you carry. But no matter how much you've tried to adjust, to be accepted, to seem normal, there's always been a tension in your spirit. That tension wasn't a curse. It was a sign. You were never designed to fit the pattern of this world because you carry the blueprint of another. You come from a higher dimension, one where purpose isn't optional, where identity isn't decided by popularity, and where assignment matters more than approval. That's why people looked at you like you were too intense, too sensitive, too serious. You were built for something greater than shallow living. You've always been marked. The dreams, the silence charged with meaning, the moments your heart burned for no reason, those weren't random. They were heaven's fingerprints on your story. The world didn't know what to do with you. They labeled you difficult. They mistook your discernment for moodiness, your boldness for arrogance, your empathy for weakness. But heaven called you chosen. Your spirit has always known, even when your mind couldn't make sense of it. You've walked into rooms and shifted atmospheres without saying a word. You've carried weight others didn't realize existed. That's the cost of being set apart. Chosen one. Hear this. What made you different was never meant to be corrected. It was meant to be protected. The enemy tried to convince you that your uniqueness was a flaw, but it's the very thing that makes you dangerous to darkness. Your presence disturbs comfort zones and awakens sleeping spirits. That's why people were instantly uncomfortable around you. It wasn't you. It was the anointing you carry. You were made to disrupt. But before heaven gives a mantle, it allows misunderstanding. That's why you've been rejected. Why doors closed. Why people left. Sometimes it was God, shielding you from anything that would dim your glow. Your life has never followed the common path because you are not common. While others rise fast and fade, you've been growing underground. Quiet seasons, hidden obedience. These aren't signs of delay. They're signs of depth. You're not a spark. You're a wildfire waiting for ignition. The truly chosen don't move by applause. They move by assignment. You've always felt the pull toward more. But more has never meant fame to you. It's meant truth. Alignment. Intimacy with God. That's what qualifies you. That's why the enemy tried to shut you down. Because if you ever walked fully in your identity, hell would lose ground. It is written in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 19. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That's why you couldn't stay hidden. That's why you feel the pull away from distraction. Heaven has claimed you. And when God calls someone out, He won't let them fit into what he's calling them to change. You don't need a platform to be powerful. You just need to be aligned. When you're marked by heaven, your silence carries weight. Your stillness makes demons nervous. And when you speak by the Spirit, things shift, chains break, clarity comes. This is why you've always felt like the outsider. You weren't made to belong to the system, you were made to confront it. That discomfort you live with, it's holy. It proves you were never meant to fit. You're not here to echo what already exists. You're here to declare what's coming. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for the oil. Stop pretending you don't feel what you feel. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You are discerning. You are awakened. You are chosen. And chosen ones are never safe to the systems they're called to shake. The calling on your life will cost comfort, but it will release authority. The pressure you feel is purpose. You weren't just saved, you were sent. And now, the time of your revealing is near. You were never meant to blend in. You were always meant to stand apart. And now the world is about to see why. You're not rising for applause. You're rising because heaven said, now, end. You've been through more than most people know. They see the surface, you smiling, functioning, moving forward, but they don't see the weight you've been carrying in silence. They don't see the battles that rage behind your eyes, the nights you stayed awake, wrestling with purpose, the moments you almost gave up, the invisible warfare, the silent prayers, the 1,000 times you kept going with no applause, no help, and no clarity. You've stood in fire and didn't burn. You've walked through storms and didn't drown. That's not weakness. That's evidence. You are proof that God keeps what He claims. And still, you wonder why it's been so heavy. Why so many betrayals? Why such isolation? Why the repeated cycles of being misunderstood? It's because the oil on your life comes with a price. You are not an echo. You are a voice. And voices that are sent to wake the sleeping always face resistance. You carry something sacred, something disruptive to darkness. And anything that threatens hell will always come under attack. The enemy's greatest fear isn't that you fall, it's that you rise and realize who you are. And you are starting to realize it. You're seeing the patterns now. The moments you were attacked weren't random. The relationships that fell apart weren't accidents. The delays weren't just bad luck. There was something holy happening beneath the pain. God was refining you in fire to prepare you for impact. What you carry will confront systems. What you carry will deliver people. What you carry is heavy because your assignment is weighty. But hear this, you are not cursed. You are being crowned. The heaviness you've carried wasn't because you're weak, it's because you're loaded. Anointing is weight. Glory is weight. And you were never meant to live light. You were built to carry purpose. People who carry this kind of weight often walk alone. Even Jesus, fully divine, fully man, carried the cross alone when no one else understood the mission. And yet, that moment of isolation led to the greatest release of power the earth has ever seen. Yours is coming too. And if you've been feeling like you're nearing the edge of something you can't name yet, something holy and unfamiliar, it's because the next phase is already beginning in the unseen. The spiritual atmosphere is shifting. You're being moved from hiddenness to release, from pressure to power. But here's what you need to know. Obedience is the bridge. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for surrender. You're full, yes. The one that doesn't need confirmation from people. The yes that doesn't waver when the crowd walks away. The kind of yes that heaven can build on. That's what this season is calling for. You've endured enough breaking. Now, it's time for building, but not with the tools of your past. You cannot use old mindsets to enter a new mantle. You cannot carry new fire in old vessels. The glory that's coming requires a complete shedding of the skin you once survived in. The ones who are ready are the ones who don't flinch when God says move, even when it doesn't make sense. And that's where you are right now. Standing between everything you've survived and everything God's about to release. It's terrifying and holy. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. You've suffered much, but it will not be wasted. There's glory coming, and it has your name written on it. And if this word is reading you, if your spirit is trembling and your chest is heavy, it's because the Spirit of God is confirming this in you. Comment, glory is coming. And let that be your declaration. Let the enemy hear it. Let heaven record it. When you type it, you're not typing for attention. You're typing with authority. You're saying, I know the weight has been real, but I also know the glory is greater. Those three words carry your posture. They echo your endurance. They prophesy your arrival. You've come too far to collapse now. You've survived too much to shrink back. There is oil on your obedience and glory on your next step, because the ones who obey are the ones who walk in power, and your power is waking up. This time, you're not breaking down, you're breaking through, and nothing can stop what heaven has already authorized. The earth is groaning for your emergence. This isn't poetic exaggeration, it's spiritual reality. All of creation is waiting for those whom heaven has marked to rise and walk in their God-given authority. You're not just here to exist. You are here to bring a shift, a turning point, a divine disruption to everything false, broken, or bound. There is something in you that creation recognizes something eternal, something dangerous to darkness, even if people don't understand it. The atmosphere does. The room knows when you walk in. The spirit realm senses your weight, not because of titles or popularity, but because you carry something sacred, an assignment. This is why you felt restless in places where others felt settled. Why normal never satisfied you. Your soul was designed for more than safety. You were born to rule where chaos once reigned. You were born to unlock things that were closed and heal what was fractured. You carry heaven's mind into confusion. You were born for impact. But impact doesn't come from striving. It comes from alignment when your spirit agrees with heaven's agenda. When you stop trying to fit broken systems and start listening to heaven's sound pulling you forward. You've heard it, haven't you? The whisper, the pressure, the ache in your soul that says, there's more. That's not imagination. That's prophecy. You're sensing something ancient awaken in you, a reminder that you were never made to stay silent in this hour. You are part of God's answer to a groaning earth. The Apostle Paul declared in his letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 19, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. And this isn't symbolic, it's personal. The earth isn't waiting for influencers. It's waiting for sons and daughters, those who know the Father and carry his heart with authority. The enemy wants you to think you're too late, too flawed. But God calls you chosen, not because of your record, but because of your resilience. You don't need perfection. You need surrender. Every hidden tear watered your future. Every closed door was redirection. Every misunderstanding shaped your message. And now, the groaning of the earth meets the preparation of your soul. Hiding is ending. There's a reason you sense what others miss, not because you're emotional, but because your spirit is tuned to movement. You don't just see what's happening, you feel what's coming. You are a forerunner, and with that calling comes weight, loneliness, resistance. But don't confuse resistance for rejection. It's confirmation. You're pushing into something real, something hell fears. You were born to bear heaven's weight. That groaning you carry, it's not depression, it's intercession. It's the Spirit groaning through you for alignment on earth, as in heaven. Your words carry weight. That's why conversations feel heavier for you. Your presence disturbs what's unclean. That's why you're pushed away before being understood. Don't take it personally, take it prophetically. Darkness resists light before it surrenders. Creation doesn't need more noise. It needs consecrated ones. People dead to applause and alive to assignment. People who will speak truth even when it costs comfort. You've been trained for this. The rejection, pain, obscurity, they were boot camp for your moment. When you move, things shift. Not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. Doors will open not by force, but by presence. When God prepares you in private, He presents you in power. The earth is groaning, and so are you. Not from confusion, but calling. Creation cries for what you carry, and your spirit cries to release it. You don't need more motivation. You need permission, and heaven already gave it. Move with boldness. Let your obedience speak louder than fear. You don't need to prove anything. Just move with authority. Knowing the groan you carry is heaven's declaration. You were born for this hour. Oh, this is not just your calling, it is your moment of release. The pain didn't bury you, it baptized you. The silence didn't erase you, it refined your sound. The hiddenness didn't delay you, it deepened your roots. And now, every force that once opposed you will witness what heaven preserved. You are not stepping into the spotlight, you are stepping into divine function. The mantle is real, the atmosphere is ready, and heaven is waiting for your agreement. The earth has groaned long enough. Now it's time for the sons and daughters to answer, and your answer is already echoing. You were hidden for a reason, not because God forgot you, not because you failed, but because the weight of your calling required privacy before promotion. You haven't been overlooked, you've been preserved, covered, guarded, concealed by the hand of God until the appointed time. And that time is drawing near. Many mistake delay for denial, but when it comes to the chosen, delay is divine strategy. Heaven hides what hell can't handle prematurely. The battles you faced in silence, the growth no one saw, the prayers no one heard, none of it was wasted. It was sacred. There are depths of anointing that don't form in the spotlight. They form in silence. You've been through hidden healing, hidden stretching, hidden obedience, hidden crushing. And though it felt lonely, it was never empty. You were not isolated, you were incubated. God was shaping you to carry what most couldn't survive. It is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. And your due time is approaching. God didn't forget you. He was forming you. Had He released you too soon, the pressure would have broken you. But now, you are rooted. Now, you are steady. Now, you are ready. What's ahead will not be casual. You're not being called to inspire, you're being called to interrupt, to disrupt cycles, to declare truth, to carry glory with maturity. And that's why you've walked through what you have. Glory sits on crushed things. Power flows through those who have been emptied first. Your silence has shaped your strength. Your hiddenness has preserved your oil. And your next season will demand everything your past season produced. But hear this clearly, you won't have to force your way forward. The same hand that hid you will now lift you. You're not stepping into visibility for attention. You're stepping into alignment for impact. And everything God placed in you during the quiet is about to be activated publicly. So when the door opens, walk through boldly. Don't shrink. Don't question if you're ready. Don't compare your journey. You were hidden not to stay invisible, but to be unveiled in power. If this word is reading you, and you know you've been walking through your underground season, then it's not just a message. It's a confirmation. And if your spirit knows this is your moment to rise, this space is for you. We're not just creating content here. We're building a place where voices like yours are prepared for what heaven is releasing, and we want you to walk with us. If you haven't already, click subscribe right now so you don't miss a single word that speaks to your season. Like this message so it reaches those who feel forgotten but are actually being prepared. Share this with someone who's in their hidden place. Remind them their silence is not empty. And if this word ministered deeply to you, feel free to sow into this space using the link in the description. No pressure, just an invitation to invest where God is planting you. The time of hiding is ending. Your obedience brought you this far. Now, watch what God will do with your yes. Because when heaven says, now, there is no force that can hold you back. No rejection from the past. No delay from the enemy. No fear in your mind can stop what has already been written by the hand of God. You are not waiting for permission. You are responding to prophecy. You are not trying to be seen. You are stepping into what has already been sealed. And the world won't understand it at first. Some will question how you got here. Others will wonder why you carry so much authority. But they didn't see the crushing. They didn't see the hours on your face before God. They didn't see the nights you laid everything down just to remain faithful. But God saw it all. And heaven never forgets the faithfulness of the hidden ones. So rise, not with arrogance, but with authority. Move, not with pride, but with power. Speak, not with ego, but with eternal weight. Because what's about to flow through your life will break chains, shift atmospheres, and awaken destinies. You weren't just hidden, you were planted. And now it's time to rise and bear fruit. Nations will feel your obedience. Hell will regret your survival. And heaven will echo, this one was worth the wait. Timing matters in the kingdom of God. And right now, heaven is aligning time with your name. There are moments in life that feel like acceleration when something shifts in the spirit, and you suddenly realize that everything you've walked through has led to this exact point. You're in one of those moments right now. This is not routine. This is divine appointment. The timeline of heaven is folding into your reality. And something is breaking open. What was delayed is now catching up. What was prophesied is now activating. What was invisible is now being pulled into view. You've sensed it, haven't you? That deep spiritual tension, the kind that feels like waiting and running at the same time, like something is just beyond the veil, almost ready, but not quite visible yet. That's not confusion, it's confirmation. You are in divine transition. And the most important thing you can do in this moment is discern the timing of God. Because when heaven says, now, you don't walk, you move. You've waited long enough. You've survived the pruning. You've endured the delay. But what was once a holding pattern is now becoming a runway. God is not keeping you grounded. He's positioning you for takeoff. But here's the catch. If the enemy can't destroy your promise, he'll try to dislocate your timing. He'll send distraction. He'll plant fear. He'll stir urgency where there should be rest, or lull you into waiting when it's time to act. Because timing is spiritual warfare. And hell knows that if you rise, when God says, rise, breakthrough is guaranteed. This is why you've been feeling that inner urgency, like something must shift. Because it must. The pressure is proof. The warfare is confirmation. The stirring you feel in your belly isn't anxiety. It's heaven's alarm clock saying, it's time. And God doesn't repeat himself for fun. If he's been confirming something again and again through dreams, through strangers, through silence, it's because you've reached the moment of decision. A doorway has appeared in the spirit, and your next move determines everything. You cannot afford to miss the moment. The teacher, in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, declares, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Oh, this is your season, not someone else's. Not a vage maybe. Yours. You are at your sea right now. The waters are moving. The command is fresh. And if you don't act on what you know, you'll be held responsible for what you ignored. That's not a threat, it's honor. Heaven only holds the mature accountable. You are no longer in the baby stages of faith. You're not in basic training anymore. You're a soldier, a weapon, a walking solution. God expects movement from you because he has poured too much into you for you to stay still. That's why delay no longer feels safe. It feels suffocating because your spirit knows it's time to shift. Heaven's clock is not bound by time zones, but it does move in seasons. And your season has changed. What didn't work last year will work now. What was blocked before is being loosed. What was withheld is now being released. But the release requires agreement. This moment is not about striving. It's not about performing. It's about responding. Do you have enough faith to move when it still looks uncertain? Do you have enough obedience to shift when there's no applause? Do you trust God enough to step even when you don't know where it will land? That's what makes you dangerous. Your willingness to say yes in raw faith. And if this word is finding you at that moment, standing between comfort and calling, then let heaven record your response. Comment 555. This isn't just a number, it's a prophetic response. The number 5 in Scripture represents grace. And when tripled, 555 symbolizes a divine shift fueled by supernatural grace. It means God is moving quickly, and he's doing it with mercy, timing, and favor that you didn't earn, but are being invited to walk into. When you type 555, you are saying, I won't hesitate anymore. I align with heaven's timing. I receive the grace to move now. I trust God more than I trust my delay. Oh, this is not about hype. It's about holy alignment. Your comment becomes your covenant. It's your yes in digital ink. Your response in the realm of faith. Your way of saying, God, I'm ready, not perfect, but available. Oh, so don't scroll past passively. Mark the moment. Declare your alignment. Type 555 below and step into the season that has been waiting on your obedience. Heaven's eyes are on you. You may feel hidden. You may feel small. But in the realm that truly governs all things, you are seen with terrifying clarity, not from afar, not as part of a crowd, but individually, personally, intentionally. Heaven is not blind to your obedience, and it has not ignored your pain, every whispered prayer, every battle fought in silence, every decision to stay faithful when it would have been easier to walk away. It's all been seen. Not a single act of surrender has gone unnoticed. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 15, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry." Oh, this is why the warfare around you has been so intense. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're effective. The enemy has watched you get up too many times. He's watched you mature. He's watched you stop reacting emotionally and start standing spiritually. That's not something he takes lightly, because when you stop flinching and start discerning, you become unstoppable. Heaven's gaze is not passive. It's active, strategic, protective, empowering. When God sets his eyes on someone, it's not just to watch, it's to activate, to appoint, to anoint. You've not just been seen, you've been marked. And when you've been marked, you don't get to live like everyone else. You don't get to take detours without consequence. You don't get to ignore conviction and still walk in peace. Why? Because the hand of God is resting on you too heavily to let you drift. There is weight on your life, and whether you feel it or not, the realm of the Spirit recognizes it. That's why certain doors closed. That's why you couldn't settle where others did. That's why you were uncomfortable in spaces that used to soothe you. Not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. You are being refined into someone who can carry fire and not burn out. Someone who can speak truth and not bow to fear. Someone who can stand in the middle of spiritual chaos and remain rooted. The attacks didn't break you. They built you. They trained your ears to hear the voice of God through static. They taught you to trust in the dark what was revealed to you in the light. They forced you to choose faith over familiarity. And now, heaven is shifting from observation to activation. What's been hovering over your life in potential is now pressing toward fulfillment. The promises you've shelved are stirring again. The clarity that felt far off is beginning to return. You're not imagining the shift, it's real. Something in the spirit realm has moved, and your name is on what's about to be released. But it will require your attention. This isn't a season for spiritual autopilot. This is not a moment for passive faith. This is a divine intersection, and it demands focus. The enemy will try to exhaust you into distraction. He'll try to drain you just enough so that when the door opens, you're too tired to step through it. Don't let him win. The exhaustion you feel isn't just physical. It's spiritual. It's resistance. It's warfare meant to delay you just long enough to miss the window. But heaven's gaze is still on you, and heaven does not miss. You are being backed by a realm that cannot lose. You are walking with a God who does not lie. You are moving in step with a Spirit who knows the end from the beginning. So, don't confuse pressure with absence. Don't mistake silence for abandonment. Heaven is watching you, and not just watching but surrounding, reinforcing, equipping. There are angels assigned to your name. There are doors that only your voice will open. There are people whose freedom is tied to your yes. This isn't exaggeration, it's weight. And you feel it because it's real. You've been chosen not just to be seen, but to see. To see what others don't. To discern what's invisible. To recognize spiritual traps before they take root. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's a weapon. That stirring you feel when something's off. That heaviness before a storm breaks out. That's discernment. That's intercession. That's part of your assignment. God trusts you with insight. And with insight comes responsibility. This is why your peace is attacked. This is why your focus is under fire. Because if the enemy can't touch your salvation, he'll try to interrupt your perception. Because a blind warrior is a vulnerable one. But not you. You are regaining sight. You are regaining strength. You are regaining clarity. And heaven hasn't taken its eyes off you for one moment. Let that settle deep in your bones. You are seen. You are known. You are still called, not despite your process, but because of it. You're not crazy. You're called. The intensity you've been feeling, the weight in your chest, the restlessness that refuses to let you settle, the knowing that something is shifting, this is not emotional instability. It's spiritual sensitivity. What you're carrying is real. What you're sensing is not imagination. Your spirit is detecting a divine movement before it fully manifests. You were not designed to function like everyone else. Your spiritual antenna is tuned to heaven's frequency. That's why silence grieves you. That's why compromise bothers you. That's why normal never fit you. You were born to feel what others ignore and see what others deny. You've always sensed the undercurrent, the unseen war beneath the surface of everyday life. You've known when something was off without evidence. You've felt things shift before words were spoken. That's not paranoia, that's prophetic wiring. And it's intensifying because your assignment is maturing. The calling on your life isn't new, it's just waking up in full force. And yes, that awakening often feels like agitation. You're not being punished, you're being pulled. Pulled from passivity, pulled from spiritual numbness, pulled into something that requires your full attention. You don't feel settled because you're not supposed to be. You're being stirred on purpose. The world tries to medicate what heaven is trying to awaken, but you can't silence your spirit with distraction anymore. The pull is too strong. The tension is too deep. God is interrupting your patterns, disrupting your comfort zones, and calling your name again, and this time, louder than before. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, chapter 13, verse 11, "The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed." Only, you feel the urgency because you're being summoned. Not to chaos, but to clarity. Not to strive, but to align. You are being called back into remembrance of who you really are. This is your spirit waking up. And when your spirit wakes up, it refuses to go back to sleep. It refuses to tolerate the counterfeit. It refuses to shrink, to fit spaces it has outgrown. That's why people think you've changed. That's why some think you're too deep now. You're not too deep. You're finally seeing clearly. You don't have time for shallow conversations anymore. Your soul longs for substance. You're tired of pretending, tired of entertaining things that drain you, tired of living small when the calling on your life is massive. That ache in you, it's holy. It's heaven's way of saying, there's more. And deep down, you've always known it, that you weren't made to blend in, that your voice wasn't meant to echo others but to carry something original, that your fire wasn't meant to be managed but released. You've outgrown environments that once fed you. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. You're not leaving people behind. You're following the cloud. And anyone not willing to move with God's presence won't understand why you're restless. Let them misunderstand. You were never called to explain a divine process to human minds. You're not broken. You're becoming the version of you that hell fears. The one who discerns sharply. The one who walks boldly. The one who no longer apologizes for the weight they carry. Your calling will always make you feel a little different. It will always separate before it elevates. But that separation is not rejection. It's preparation. God is pulling you apart so He can pour you out. You can't carry this and still chase validation. You can't carry this and still stay comfortable. You can't carry this and still be numb. It's time to embrace your spiritual weight. The warfare wasn't for nothing. The isolation wasn't meaningless. The dreams that keep returning are not random. God is awakening your mandate. And everything in your life is being reordered to reflect that. Don't ignore the stirring. Don't numb the signal. Don't apologize for your hunger. You were never meant to be average. You were never meant to blend in and behave. You were marked. You were sealed. You were called. And now your spirit knows it. This isn't emotional hype. It's divine remembrance. You're remembering who you were before the world made you forget. You're remembering the oil, the voice, the presence, the assignment. You're not going crazy. You're going deeper. You're not unraveling. You're unlocking. And what's being unlocked in, you cannot be silenced anymore. This is your rising. This is your roar. This is the moment where you stop hiding and finally step into the fire. The shift you've been feeling isn't random. It's a response, a divine reaction to your yes, to your surrender, to your inner agreement with what God placed on your life long ago. Lately, you've felt like the atmosphere around you has gotten heavier, like your surroundings are too small for your soul. That's not pressure from the world, that's expansion from within. The weight you're carrying is not punishment. It's evidence of purpose. And it's growing. Because heaven is stretching you. You've outgrown where you've been. And it's not just emotional, it's spiritual. The environment you once thrived in now feels stifling. The relationships that once affirmed you now feel misaligned. Even your own habits have become too tight. You are shedding what no longer fits. And it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because what God is preparing to release through you cannot live in an outdated version of you. You're in the middle of divine reconstruction, and God does not renovate what He plans to abandon. He only breaks what He intends to rebuild, stronger. Every area that feels unsettled right now is a space He's getting ready to upgrade. Your capacity is being increased. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your language is being refined. Because what's coming next will require precision, not performance. That's why your spirit is agitated. That's why silence feels louder. That's why your rest is disturbed. You are being aligned forcefully. Yes, but lovingly. Heaven is drawing you into maturity. Not because you failed, but because you're ready. And ready, people often feel ruined before they feel released. You're not being punished for growing. You're just no longer allowed to remain where you've been. You've said yes to becoming, and now the weight of that yes is showing up in your reality. The more aligned you become, the more misaligned things will fall off. That's not loss. That's clarity. That's heaven saying, this can't go with you. And you don't need closure, you need courage. Courage to move forward, even without full understanding. Courage to release what no longer carries grace. Courage to admit, this was good, but it's no longer God. Some of the tension you feel isn't from the enemy, it's from transition. God is shifting your inner world so that your outer world can transform. He's wrecking your taste for things that once numbed you. He's making you crave deeper waters, not surface-level peace, but soul-level alignment, not feel-good faith, but fire-tested obedience. This is the mark of a remnant rising, people who would rather be aligned with heaven than applauded by man, people who would rather carry the weight of obedience than the emptiness of compromise. And you are one of them. That's why you don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You just need to obey, because obedience creates openings, and your next breakthrough won't be a miracle falling from the sky. It will be the result of your movement. God isn't testing your strength, He's testing your surrender. He already knows your capacity. He's simply waiting for your consistency. Not flashy faith, just steady steps. Because destiny doesn't explode overnight. It unfolds through obedience. And yes, it's okay to feel the tension. It's okay to feel like things are shifting faster than you can process. But don't mistake pressure for punishment. Don't confuse discomfort with disapproval. You're not being disqualified. You're being drafted into something higher. As written in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 9, do I bring to the moment of birth and not give delivery, says the Lord. God has not brought you this far just to abandon the promise. He doesn't initiate a shift without securing its purpose. The contractions you feel are not signs of failure. They are signs that birth is near. So lean into it. Trust the stretching. Embrace the letting go. Let God remodel you. Let Him refine you. Let Him break the things in you that were never meant to survive this level. You're not falling apart, you're being reformed. And if this word finds you mid-transition, with your hands lifted but your heart trembling, here's your moment to declare it. Comment, stretch me, Lord, not because it's comfortable, but because it's holy. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because you trust the process. When you type this, you're not asking for ease. You're asking for enlargement. You're saying, God, I give you permission to take me beyond my limits because I trust your hands to stretch, not break me. No, this is not weakness. It's maturity. It's obedience. And it's the doorway to your next level. There are moments when heaven watches and moments when heaven moves. You're standing in one of those moments now. The spiritual pressure that's been mounting wasn't random. It was preparing you. You've been walking through a divine narrowing, a refining hallway where comfort has been stripped, voix silenced, and options reduced. But reduction isn't reaction. It's focus. It's alignment. God has been removing what you thought you needed so you can recognize what you truly carry. You were never called to do this in your own strength. That ache for more, that cry for clarity, that hunger for substance, It's because your spirit is finally breaking through the fog. You're starting to remember who you were before the world taught you how to forget. And as you wake up, something powerful is being reignited. This is not hype. This is heaven. And heaven does not waste fire. The burning in your chest is not emotionalism. It's divine branding. You've been marked for something sacred. You've been trusted with weight most people never see. You've been chosen not just to feel God, but to reveal Him. And what you're carrying is not just for you. Your voice matters. Your obedience matters. Your presence carries disruption in the spirit realm. When you walk into rooms, darkness loses permission. When you pray, chains that aren't even yours begin to break. You're not just sensitive, you're spiritually armed. That's why the enemy has tried to isolate you. That's why he's whispered lies like, "You're too much, you're too intense, you're overthinking," because he's terrified of what you're becoming. And deep down, you feel it too, that this is no longer a season of survival, it's a season of surging forward. The pain you've walked through was never wasted. The rejection you endured was a classroom. The silence was a sanctuary. And now that clarity is returning. You must walk different. You can't blend in. You can't go back. You can't pretend like you don't feel this shift. Because to delay now is to disobey. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another open door. The moment is now. You've already been called, appointed, and anointed. The only thing left is to step. The Lord's voice is not whispering anymore, it's commanding, as it is written in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. This isn't a suggestion. It's a summons. You've been hiding in the shadows of potential, but heaven is demanding movement. This isn't just about you stepping into purpose. It's about the people who are waiting on the other side of your obedience. Lives are connected to your yes. Breakthrough is riding on your courage. And yes, this journey can feel lonely, but you are not alone. There is a growing army across the earth, burning ones, set apart ones, the hidden ones. Heaven is now revealing. If this message finds you in that space between obedience and open doors, know this: your delay was not denial. It was preparation. And your next step matters more than you know. That's why this space exists. These messages are more than words, they are warfare. And if your spirit has been stirred, challenged, or confirmed here, don't stay silent. Like this message if it pierced you, not for numbers, but for momentum. The more light we pour, the more darkness retreats. Share it with someone who's been wrestling in secret. Your obedience to send could unlock their clarity. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this is not just a feed. It's a prophetic frequency. We're not building followers, we're gathering a remnant. And if the Spirit prompts you to give, know this: you're not donating to a platform. You're fueling an assignment. Every offering helps carry fire farther. Above all, let this word echo in your soul. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's commanding you to move. He is not waiting on your clarity. He's waiting on your courage. The heavens have already spoken. The weight is already yours. The grace is already flowing. Now, move. Not with hesitation. Not with apology. Move with fire in your spirit and steel in your spine. Because what you obey today will set the tone for your tomorrow. You don't need all the steps, just the next one. Go now. Go bold. Heaven has already cleared the way. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the silence becomes louder than the noise, when every distraction fades, and the voice within begins to rise. It's not the voice of your emotions, or your fears, or your logic. It's the voice of divine instruction, the echo of heaven reminding you of who you are and what you carry. You've come too far to be confused by temporary stillness. God hasn't stopped speaking. He's just shifted how he speaks. You're not being ignored. You're being invited deeper. Silence is the language of summons. This is where God begins to refine your hearing, not your physical ears, but your spiritual sensitivity. He's making you more alert, more aware, more awake to whispers instead of waiting for signs. Because in what's coming next, you won't have time to wait for confirmation after confirmation. You'll need to know, quickly and confidently. You'll need to discern with clarity. You'll need to move in trust, not approval. This season is not punishment. It's preparation. When God stops shouting, it means He's drawing you into intimacy. When He allows everything around you to quiet down, it's not abandonment, it's training. You're being built to stand in clarity when others drown in noise. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but clarity costs, and you've said yes to carrying it. The silence is not your enemy. It's your classroom. The wilderness you feel, it's not exile, it's encounter. This is where oil is formed. This is where warriors are shaped. This is where voices are stripped of ego and filled with power. No platform can give you what this quiet season is giving you. No audience can replace the authenticity that is being born in the private places of stillness. The prophets weren't trained in palaces. They were prepared in caves. You're in the middle of your cave season, hidden but not forgotten, called but not yet crowned, seen by heaven but invisible to man. And it's by design, because you are being formed in silence to be released in power. This silence is sacred. Don't resent it. Don't rush it. Don't fill it with noise. Let it do its work. Let it pull out of you every false comfort you used to cling to. Let it stretch your roots deeper into trust. Because soon, the winds will blow. And when they do, only those rooted in real intimacy will remain standing. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verse 16, we read, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Then, if even Jesus withdrew, if even the Son of God needed silence to stay aligned, how much more do we? This is why you've been feeling the tug to withdraw, to say no to things that look good, but don't carry glory, to pull back from conversations that feel spiritually heavy, to guard your time, your eyes, your ears, not out of fear, but out of reverence. The call on your life demands a quiet spirit and a sharp ear, because what you're being entrusted with next requires maturity. You can't be reactionary. You can't chase applause. You can't depend on affirmation. You have to be rooted in obedience, even when it looks like nothing is happening. Because most of the time, heaven does its greatest work under the surface. You don't plant a seed and check it every hour. You cover it in trust. You water it with prayer. You wait in faith. Because harvest never shouts, it arrives quietly. Until one day, it's undeniable. And so it is with you. You are becoming undeniable. Slowly, quietly, deeply. Heaven has placed you in a cocoon not to punish you, but to transform you. And when the moment comes, Your wings will not be fragile. They will be forged by pressure and trained in silence. Let yourself be quiet, not absent, not distant, just still enough to feel the weight of his presence again. Let your questions echo and your soul settle, because answers are coming, but not always in words. Some answers come in posture, some in peace, some in fire, but all of them begin in surrender. So don't despise this still season. Don't resist the spiritual hush that's fallen over you. There is strategy in the silence. There is clarity in the quiet. And there is power in the pause. This isn't stagnation. It's sacred suspension. You're in God's hand, held firmly between preparation and release. And when He's ready, nothing will stop what's next. Not time, not fear, not delay, because what's been forged in silence will speak louder than any storm ever could. There is a divine countdown happening over your life, not one that ends in destruction, but one that ends in release. You've felt it in your spirit for weeks now, the tension, the timing, the pressure of something sacred pressing against your present. It's not just a new season, it's a new level, and levels don't come cheap. Elevation always demands exchange. You cannot carry into this next dimension what kept you safe in the last. The comfort, the coping, the compromises they all have to fall. Not because you're being punished, but because the weight of your new season can't coexist with the clutter of your old one. This is spiritual alignment at a higher altitude. You've noticed it already. Old habits suddenly irritate you. Old circles feel spiritually heavy. Conversations that once entertained you now drain you. You're not crazy. You're being recalibrated. Heaven is reprogramming your spiritual system to function under kingdom frequency, and not everyone around you will understand. That's part of the cost. Because spiritual elevation often comes with natural isolation, not everyone is willing to let go of what you're walking away from. Some are content with the crowd, but you were never designed for comfort. You were made for covenant. Covenant always costs more than convenience. You've been called to walk with a cleaner spirit, a sharper ear, a more surrendered heart. And while it feels heavy now, it's producing something priceless: clarity. Clarity that cuts through confusion. Clarity that separates noise from instruction. Clarity that empowers radical obedience. And that obedience, it's about to unlock what your waiting never could. You've been faithful in the quiet, steady in the tension, but now something is shifting, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. The doors are not opening because you begged. They're opening because heaven is ready. And so are you. You're stepping into prepared places. Rooms your name entered before your feet did. Conversations where your absence has already been noticed. Assignments that were built with your obedience in mind. This is not coincidence. This is kingdom timing. And your alignment has accelerated your access. That's why the warfare intensified. That's why the attacks came closer to home. Because when your season is about to shift, so does the strategy of the enemy. He doesn't attack what's stagnant. He attacks what's nearing breakthrough. But the attack was the signal, not the setback. Every arrow that came your way became a compass. Every delay turned into direction. Every wound led to a greater weight of glory. You didn't lose time, you gained depth. You didn't lose connection, you gained clarity. And now, you're not guessing anymore. You're knowing. This is the fruit of alignment. You've stopped praying for convenience. You've started praying for capacity. You've stopped asking God to make it easy. You've started asking Him to make it eternal. And heaven has heard you. Not just your words, but your posture. So what happens now? You move. You release. You obey quickly. You forgive deeply. You follow without second guessing. You don't need another prophecy. You need a pen, because what's next will require documentation. God is about to do it so fast. You'll need pages to remember the pace. The prophet Habakkuk was told in chapter 2, verse 2, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." Because the pace of what's coming won't wait for your hesitation. You must run with the vision, not walk, not linger, run. And not from striving, but from revelation. You now know who you are. You now remember why you were called. You now see what this pressure was producing all along. So here is your prophetic response. Comment the number 888 below. This is not superstition. It's a prophetic act. The number 8 is the symbol of new beginnings, and 888 means this isn't just a reset. It's divine recommissioning. A complete shift. A heaven-backed launch. A new era with heaven's signature on it. Type 888 as a bold declaration. I step into what's already mine. I no longer delay. I align. This is my beginning, backed by fire and sealed in obedience. The shift has already begun. Heaven isn't waiting, and neither should you. This is your spiritual exodus from survival into strategy, from cycles into covenant. Nothing behind you defines you. What's ahead of you is an altar. And what you build next will not break. It will blaze. Move forward. The foundation is set. The seal is on you now. There are moments when everything looks the same on the outside, yet deep inside, something has already shifted beyond return. This is that moment for you. You may still be surrounded by the same people. You may still live in the same place. Your calendar may look unchanged, but the way your spirit responds to your surroundings has changed forever. And that inner change is not subtle, it's sacred. It's evidence that God has pulled you into a deeper dimension. This isn't just personal growth, it's prophetic separation. You're not disconnected, you're being set apart. And there is a vast difference between isolation and consecration. Isolation happens when people push you away. Consecration happens when God pulls you aside. One breaks you, the other builds you. And what you're walking through now, it's not rejection, it's refinement. God is narrowing your focus for a reason. You're being called out of distractions that dilute your anointing. Conversations that once entertained you now exhaust you. Content that once filled your mind now pollutes your clarity. It's not that you're becoming too deep, it's that your oil is becoming too expensive to waste on things that don't carry kingdom weight. You've asked for more of God, but more of God always costs more of you. And now you're being called to protect the weight you carry, to become a gatekeeper over your own soul. Because what's coming next will demand more than charisma, it will demand purity. Not perfection, but posture. Not performance, but presence. This is the consecrated path. Few choose it, fewer finish it. But those who do change atmospheres. You don't need a stage to carry authority. You don't need a title to carry weight. You only need alignment. And God is bringing you into such radical alignment that anything even slightly off now feels unbearable. That's not hypersensitivity, it's holiness. The weight you feel in your spirit is a holy assignment. Maturing, you've been trusted with fire. And fire, when mishandled, can destroy. That's why God is slowing you down to sharpen your discernment. That's why He's stripping away the crutches that used to keep you emotionally stable. That's why He's challenging you to be still in rooms you used to run through. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. You can't pray for nations and then live undisciplined. You can't ask for kingdom authority and then flirt with compromise. The weight of your next requires the death of your last. And you've already begun to surrender. You've stopped chasing applause. You've stopped needing explanations. You've stopped proving your worth to people who never had the eyes to see you clearly. And in that surrender, God has met you, not with judgment, but with clarity. You now understand. You were never overlooked, just hidden. You weren't being silenced. You were being sanctified. And the moment of revealing is near, but it won't come through hype or platform. It will come through evidence. The fruit of what God has been doing in you secretly is about to flow from you publicly. That's why purity matters more now than ever. You can't pour from a place of contamination. And God loves you too much to allow the next season to be tainted by old patterns. He's not asking you to be flawless, but He is requiring you to be yielded. And in your yielding, you're going to discover power that doesn't come from noise. It comes from stillness. It comes from the sacred exchange that happens in the hidden places. It comes from obedience when no one is watching. This next move of God is not built on talent, it's built on trust. And God trusts you. That's why He's been pulling you closer. Even when you didn't understand. That's why He's been waking you up at inconvenient hours. That's why certain things suddenly feel too shallow. He's preparing you to host something holy, and heaven refuses to share space with compromise. In the writings of the Apostle Paul to Timothy, in his second letter, chapter 2, verse 21, it is written, "Those who cleanse themselves from what is dishonorable will be instruments for special purposes, made holy, useful to the master, and prepared to do any good work." That's who you are becoming. Not common, not convenient, but useful to the master, an instrument, not for the noise of the crowd, but for the sound of heaven, a vessel of weight, a life marked by depth. You won't blend in. You weren't meant to. You were made to carry what others can't even comprehend. So, guard your oil. Protect your clarity. Refuse the lure of spiritual laziness. The closer you get to fire, the more careful your steps must be. You've been set apart, and soon, the world will see why. You were never called to carry light things. The mantle on your life has always been heavy, not because God delights in your struggle, but because what you carry has eternal consequences. You were born to shift atmospheres, dismantle strongholds, and push back darkness not with noise, but with authority. And authority never comes cheaply. That's why the warfare around you has been relentless. You've endured battles that others never saw, fought wars in silence, while smiling in public. You've interceded through your own exhaustion, carried others while breaking inside. And no one noticed, but heaven did. You didn't break. You blew. But you never quit. And because of that, a greater weight of glory is now resting on you. This isn't about you becoming louder. It's about you becoming deeper. The depth you've gained through your private crushing is about to manifest publicly as supernatural stability. When others panic, you'll walk in peace. When others scatter, you'll stand firm, because you didn't just learn faith, you lived it. And now, faith lives in you like fire. The fire isn't just for display, it's for direction. God has lit something inside of you that won't let you settle for average anymore. You can't stomach surface-level spirituality. You can't fake joy. You can't water down truth. And it's not because you're harsh, it's because you're holy. And holiness will always disturb what's unclean. You've become a disruption by default. You walk into rooms, and the atmosphere changes. Not because you say anything, but because you carry weight, spiritual weight. The kind that makes demons nervous. The kind that exposes hidden compromise. The kind that causes spiritual systems to either bow or break. But don't shrink back. Don't apologize for it. God didn't anoint you to be palatable. He anointed you to be powerful. And power is rarely comfortable for the complacent. That's why certain people can't stand to be near you anymore. It's not personal, it's spiritual. They feel convicted by your clarity. They sense their stagnation next to your movement. And that's okay. You weren't called to babysit atmospheres. You were called to shift them. You were called to interrupt patterns. You were called to bring heaven into places hell thought it owned. That's why you've been through what you've been through. You had to learn how to carry presence under pressure, how to move forward without applause, how to war without recognition. God trained you in the dark so you could walk in light without pride. And now, He's increasing the radius of your reach. But with that increase comes more responsibility. The oil you carry must be guarded. The words you speak must be intentional. The posture of your heart must remain surrendered. Because this is not just about you being used, it's about you being trusted. And God only trusts vessels that have been purified, not perfect, but pure in motive, clear in intention, fully yielded. He's not looking for impressive people. He's looking for empty ones, empty of pride, empty of self-preservation, empty of performance, because only the emptied can be fully filled. And you, chosen one, have emptied yourself long enough. Now comes the infilling. Now comes the fire. Now comes the fullness. But don't expect this next season to be easy. With increased oil comes increased visibility. And with visibility comes warfare. You won't be able to hide in the shadows anymore. Your life is becoming a living sermon, one that convicts without speaking, heals without striving, and reveals God without distortion. So stay low, stay pure, stay focused. Don't allow success to seduce your surrender. Don't let growth distract you from grace. Your influence is not your identity. Your obedience is. Stay anchored in secret place, truth, while you walk through public favor. Remember who gave you the fire and who can take it away. You didn't choose this weight, it chose you. And the one who gave it to you has not left you to carry it alone. His strength is your strength. His voice is your compass. His presence is your protection. He is not just using you, He is with you. As written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 2, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you." No, you've survived the rivers. You've endured the floods. Now it's time to walk in fire without being consumed. Not because you are strong, but because you are sealed. This is what you were born for. You've carried it quietly long enough. The calling, the conviction, the cost. And now, Heaven is placing a demand on what has been maturing in silence. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more deflecting when you are clearly the answer to the atmosphere. God has not been preparing you for nothing. The shaking, the stretching, the stripping, it was all strategy, not to destroy you, but to distinguish you. You are not stepping into the spotlight. You are stepping into your assignment. There's a difference. This isn't about being seen by people. It's about being sent by heaven. Your obedience has created a ripple in the spirit, and the gates of hell have taken notice. The attacks have increased, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. You don't just pray prayers. You launch spiritual warfare. You don't just speak words. You shift atmospheres, and it's time to stop treating your gift like an option. It's a weapon. It's time to stop waiting for permission. God already gave you access. And yes, the responsibility is weighty. But what's on the other side of your yes? Generational curses broken, regions awakened, families restored, captives freed, the kingdom expanded. That's why the pressure has felt relentless. That's why you've been under fire. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't threatening. He fights what's rising. And chosen one, you are rising. You're not waiting for the right moment. You are the moment. This is your confirmation. Not to do something flashy, but to do something faithful. Not to impress the world, but to obey the whisper. And that whisper is growing louder now. Heaven is calling for action, not out of striving, but out of surrender. You've been refined in the dark, and now the flame inside of you is ready to shine in places where compromise once lived. Let this be clear. God isn't just interested in using your voice. He's anointed your presence. When you walk into a room, the spiritual climate shifts. You've noticed it. Others have felt it. Some respond with hunger, some with irritation. But either way, you're not forgettable. You're catalytic. That's not ego. That's evidence. Evidence that your wilderness wasn't wasted. Evidence that your brokenness became oil. Evidence that your delays weren't denials. They were deepening your roots. Now comes the release. Not into a platform, into a purpose. And if this word resonates with your spirit, don't scroll in silence. Let it mark you. Like this word, if it's burning in your chest. Not for validation, but visibility, because someone needs to hear what you've just realized. Share this with one person who's been stuck between fear and fire. Your simple act of obedience might confirm their calling. Subscribe if you haven't already. This is more than a message, it's a movement. And we're building more than followers. We're forging a remnant. And if you feel led to support what's happening here, your donation doesn't just help, it sends fire farther. You're not giving to content. You're sowing into commission, because heaven is moving. And so must you. As declared by the angel of the Lord to Gideon in Judges chapter 6, verse 12, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." He was hiding when those words were spoken, but heaven saw the warrior before the world did, and heaven sees you now. This is your wake-up call, not to religion, to revelation, not to hype, to holiness, not to perform, but to prepare. You've been sleeping with your armor beside you for too long. Now is the time to put it on. The battlefield is not coming, it's already here, and you've been forged for it. You've been assigned to it. You've been fashioned by fire to stand in places others fainted. Not because you're better, but because you're willing. willing to say yes again, willing to be stretched again, willing to burn when others play it safe, willing to carry what others dropped out of fear. So take up your mantle, lift your head. The weight is real, but so is the grace. And you don't walk alone. There's a remnant rising beside you, a scattered army of burning ones. Ithen nomori. This is the moment you were made for. Let heaven find you faithful. Let hell regret ever touching you. Let the world witness what oil looks like when it walks in human skin. And if your spirit is stirred, don't leave this moment in silence. Comment below. I will not hold back. No, let it be a declaration, a war cry, a covenant. Because what's next doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs the obedient one. There is a holy discomfort resting on your soul, and it's not going away. It isn't anxiety. It isn't fear. It's divine unrest. A stirring, a shift, a sacred pressure that refuses to let you settle back into old rhythms, because heaven knows what you're capable of. Even when you try to play small, you were not created for neutral ground. You've tried to ignore it. You've tried to reason with it. But you can feel the tension growing between where you are and where God is calling you to stand. That tension is not failure. It's friction, the friction between obedience and hesitation. And something deep within you knows you can't hesitate anymore. This isn't a season of maybe. This is the hour of move. There's no more room for playing it safe. What's on your life is too important. The people attached to your obedience, too valuable. The timing, too divine. You are being called to cross over fully, boldly, completely. This is your Jordan River moment. You've wandered long enough. You've wept long enough. You've wondered if you heard God correctly long enough. But now the cloud is moving, and if you wait too long, you'll miss the crossing. God is calling you to step where you've never stepped before. Not because the path is clear, but because He is faithful. He's not asking you to walk by sight. He's training you to walk by trust. And trust looks like movement. Not just belief. It looks like getting uncomfortable, letting go, stepping out of the boat before the waves calm down. Faith is not waiting for fear to disappear. Faith is moving while fear still speaks. This is where everything shifts, not because God changes, but because you do. This is where you begin to walk as if the promise is already in motion. You won't see the miracle before you move. The waters won't part until your feet hit them. You've been asking for confirmation. But what if the confirmation is the call itself? What if the nudge, the conviction, the divine unrest you feel isn't meant to be answered with analysis, but with action? What if God's silence isn't absence, it's anticipation? He's already spoken. Now He's waiting. You've been circling this mountain long enough. Every time you feel the nudge, the enemy whispers reasons to delay. It's not time. You're not ready. What if you fail? But none of those voices come from heaven. Heaven says, go. Heaven says, now. Heaven says, I'm with you. Do. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verse 6, the Lord spoke to His people and said, you have stayed long enough at this mountain, and so have you. You've gathered, you've grieved, you've grown. Now it's time to go. The mountain was meant for preparation, not permanence. And every delay from here on out is disobedience in disguise. This may be the most important pivot of your life. Not because everything will change instantly, but because you will. Obedience activates access. Surrender sharpens vision. And movement multiplies clarity. When you obey, the fog lifts. When you obey, provision flows. When you obey, heaven backs every step. But you must move first. You don't need more assurance. You need more agreement. Agreement with what God has already said. Agreement with what your spirit already knows. Agreement with the process that doesn't always make sense, but always bears fruit. What you're sensing is not a suggestion, it's a summons. And summonses are not optional. They're holy mandates. They don't wait for your convenience. They require your courage. And deep down, you know this isn't just about your destiny, it's about legacy. About the impact of your yes echoing into people you may never meet. That's why the urgency won't go away. Because heaven won't let it. You've prayed for purpose. You've asked for timing. And now both have arrived. Wrapped in the simple instruction, move. Not next week. Not when it's easy. Not after you're 100% certain. But now in trust. Not certainty, in surrender, not control. You're not being reckless. You're being obedient. And obedience always looks like risk to the flesh. But in the spirit, it's alignment. And alignment is where peace lives. Not safety, peace. The kind of peace that passes understanding and carries power beyond logic. So breathe in the fire. Exhale the fear. Step when it's still messy. Walk when it's still unclear. Leap when the crowd stays behind. Because this is your moment of movement. And movement is your answer. Not just for your sake, but for everyone. Your obedience will touch. Some will never understand the weight you carry, not because they don't care, but because they were never assigned to it. And that's okay. What God placed on your life is not for public approval. It is for private obedience. You don't need applause to validate your assignment. You need alignment. And alignment means walking differently now. Not everyone can walk with you into what's next. Not every mindset can survive where you're going. This is the season where God doesn't just add, He subtracts. Not to punish you, but to preserve what He's building in you. Because purity of purpose often requires separation. You're not losing people, you're gaining focus. And that focus is going to become your foundation. The distractions that once diluted your fire won't have room anymore. The doubts that once held you hostage won't survive the clarity that's being formed. This next level of your walk won't come with comfort. It will come with conviction. And that conviction will call you higher when others are content staying the same. You're not being called out, you're being called up. And that upward call requires an inner restructuring. You're not just shifting what you do, you're shifting how you think. The old patterns, the old fears, the old responses, they don't fit anymore. Not because you're trying to be better, but because God is building you deeper. You're becoming someone who can carry weight without wavering. You've been through fire, but the fire didn't burn you, it branded you. You've walked through waters, but they didn't drown you, they defined you. And now you carry something that can't be taught in classrooms or captured in sermons. You carry presence. You carry authority. You carry evidence. And evidence doesn't need to explain itself. It just shows up. When you speak, people won't just hear your words, they'll feel the weight of heaven. When you move, the atmosphere won't just shift, it will bend. Not because of who you are, but because of who's backing you. You've been sent, not just spared. You weren't rescued just to survive. You were restored to rebuild. You weren't healed just to be whole. You were healed to heal others. Everything you walked through was training ground. Everything that broke you was breaking off what couldn't go with you. God used the pain to purify the promise. And now that purity is becoming your platform, not a stage, but a spiritual standing point, a place of unshakable identity, a clarity that can't be bought or borrowed, a confidence that doesn't need volume, it carries presence. This is the weight of being chosen, not glamorous, not effortless, but holy. And you've responded with a yes that cost you everything comfortable. That's why you're seeing differently. That's why you're hearing more clearly. That's why the things that used to shake you don't even move you now. You've become anchored in the unseen. Your prayers are no longer wishful, they're weaponized. Your worship is no longer emotional, it's strategic. Your life is no longer random, it's prophetic. And what used to be a burden has become a breakthrough for others. What used to be a battle has become a banner. Because you stayed when it was hard. You prayed when it was dry. You obeyed when it made no sense. And now, you carry fire. In the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10, it is written, "And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will himself restore you and make you strong, firm and steadfast." That word is now active over your life. You're not guessing anymore. You're not hoping. You know. And that knowing has become your strength. You've become unshakable. Not because life got easier, but because you've been fortified in the furnace. So walk forward without apology. Speak with clarity. Pray with boldness. Move with authority. Stand without fear. Worship without restraint. Because the oil on your life cost too much to waste it trying to blend in now. Because the fire in your bones is not accidental, it's ancestral. Because your obedience is rewriting what the enemy thought he had sealed. Because you are not just saved, you are sent. Let the rest fall away. Let the old wineskins burst. Let the slow walkers stay behind. You've been called. You've been chosen. You've been branded by glory. Now, walk in it. Walk like one who's been through the fire and came out glowing. Walk like one who's been approved in heaven and assigned on earth. You don't just carry a message. You've become the message. If this word pierced your spirit, it was never by chance. It was by divine design. You didn't just stumble onto this message. Heaven ordered your steps here, because you are not like the rest. You are God's chosen one, and this was your confirmation. You've been refined by fire, shaped in silence, strengthened in storms, and now you're ready to stand, ready to walk in the weight you were born to carry. Let this be the moment you don't scroll past. Let this be the word that marks your turning point. Like this message, if something inside you was ignited, your click is not for algorithm, it's for alignment. Share this with someone who's been battling alone in the dark. You might be the voice that reminds them they're not forsaken. Subscribe if you haven't, because these aren't just videos, they're prophetic signals. This space is a meeting point for burning ones like you. And if you feel led to support this assignment, I know that your giving isn't just generosity, it's partnership with purpose. Every seed sown fuels more fire, more clarity, more reach. Most of all, don't stay silent. Comment below, marked and moving. M's, let this be your declaration. Let it echo in the spirit realm. You're done hiding. You're done hesitating. You are sealed. sent, and stepping forward, because you're not going back. You're not shrinking. You're not waiting for another sign. You are marked. You are sent. You are sealed. And the world has yet to see what happens when God's chosen ones rise in full obedience. Walk boldly. Stay burning. Keep becoming.